Farm Willow Creek Subdivision Drainage Rehabilitation Project. We contracted in 2010 with Freeman Webb, who is a, I guess they own properties. It's probably the best way to describe them. And partnered in that contract to replace, repair, fix in some fashion the drainage system on that yellow dashed line on the map all the way down to Evans Road, and get that thing back up to working condition. The details of the contract are, I still get confused sometimes when I read it. However, the total project cost estimate right now is $800,000, and our share of that, we're requesting in the 2012 CIP $192,500 to cover that cost.
Will this remove all the existing problems with this area?
That's what we're hoping for.
Daryl, but I was out there yesterday afternoon, and it appeared to be there's somebody's doing work out there, some sort. And what struck me, Daryl, was that, well, I can't point. Water is running from the pond over this field down through the streets.
That's actually, we're doing
I know
that.
that's what it was, but I thought, even
The town is
today.
doing that. We're draining the pond.
over the road.
Yes, sir. With a pump. Next project, Everett Road right-of-way acquisition, with the intent of eventually widening Everett Road. As you know, we've had a subdivision that is no longer viable. They got through to a point where they had to abandon it, but they left infrastructure, road, everything out there. We're anticipating someone picking this up at some point. So in order to get ready for that, we would like to continue acquiring right-of-way on Everett Road. And that cost to continue the right-of-way acquisition for 2012 is $200,000. This is the proposed outdoor classroom located at the high school entrance and Campbell Station Road. And this project was found, developed, and applied for through a grant, as you can see in the the third bullet, through the Department of Agriculture by Jason Scott, who is stormwater coordinator and works out of the engineering department. He did receive some correspondence, unofficial correspondence, that we did receive some form of a match. I don't know if it was a complete match. We're going to wait until we get the official notice. But this project we're looking to fund for the total cost would be 40% of the total match on our end, which is $81,500. And you can kind of see some of the detail in the pop out there. This project is early in its stages, and part of the application process, we did go through the Stormwater Advisory Committee, and I believe, I don't know if we went through the VRRB, but then it went to the board. Still waiting on official word. So if there's any questions on this, I know it's a complicated looking project, but an exciting one, I think, nonetheless.
Out of curiosity, on the funding, the potential funding from the Tennessee Department of Agriculture, is it only a 60% from them, or is it 0 or 60, or could they come back and say they're going to give you 30%? Or?
And that's the rub, at least with me, is that when we apply for some of these with the anticipation of an all or nothing end game, and they come back with something else, it screws everything up. So we're going to wait for official word, but the indication that I believe is $15,000, which does absolutely nothing. So we're going to wait. We're going to go back to the table with this, and we would like to program for it. And at the end of this, we'll, of course, you all, and we can talk about some alternative projects. But if any of these things go south, then it's ripe to have another project move into its place.
Another question: is the intent of this to the school system to bring kids from other schools in here as well?
I think it would definitely have to be open to the public. I think the intent is to primarily have our schools use it, heavily used by the high school. It received a strong support from the high school and the teachers in there. And if it's successful, in which I think it would be, I think it would be very, very well utilized.
I think it's a neat project. I was just curious about it. Thank you.
Yeah, there are a lot of elements in here that if we were able to do them, it would be, we would probably receive some national recognition for.
I think the middle school and the,
Yeah, it's an ideal location. It really is.
let me make my, you said if it's 15, and then we're going to have to put this on hold probably because of the fact that, you know, we really just wanted to do 40%. Am I correct?
Well, we would like to do as much, as little as possible. But the numbers are based on that match.
Okay,
And
And if-
the application would allow us, or the program would allow us to match with not just cash, but in-kind services. So if we were to provide staff support, sponsorship, stuff like that, then we could whittle that number down. But if we were to just do 40% with cash is 81.5. Yeah, I mean, if it comes back at 15, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to,
Start all
redo the
over.
whole plan
redo.
and figure out how we're going to cover this. And it may not be feasible. And if that's the case, then
Okay.
we need to resolve that.
One of the other things is, since I'm the chair of the Stormwater Commission, we spent quite a bit of time on this, and of course, it could be spread out over more than one fiscal year. And strangely enough, the driving cost factor on this thing is ADA. It doubles the price on it.
I think what we're going to have to do is look at what the program's going to require if we do decide to go this route. Because you also have to look at the timeline of the spend down for the Department of Agriculture. They may have a timeline where you have to have
Have it done.
X amount of dollars
Yes.
spent in a certain time frame, and we need to make sure that we can meet that.
And more than likely, they will have that.
I'm
won't
sure
they?
they
Yeah,
will.
yeah.
Typically, it's a lot wider than what we would have, which is, would be a year. Theirs is, I know the ones that I've worked for the block grant were a year and a half. So you had a year and a half to spend your allocation. If that's the case, then we could probably spread this out or look at spreading it out and see how it comes out in the end. This is the one I referred to early on with the Grigsby Chapel, Rhode Island improvements. And I know it's kind of hard to see. I really wasn't with the text, but we're looking to program $25,000 for basic rehab of that whole area. And rehab, I think, would probably be defined as replanting anything that didn't grow back, stuff that didn't work out the way we wanted it to, and looking at the feasibility to run some lighting in the islands out there. And this is another one that I'm not exactly sure what we would be doing, but we want to go through another growing cycle and see what does come in and go from there. Sure.
Contracted this out to plant all of that in the past, right? Do they not have a responsibility for, most places you have it to where it lasts for a year or two, you get a warranty, are they not responsible for some of this?
I believe that the typical, if not required warranty is a year after plantings or after approval. I don't know what the language is. Right. And of course, it's a warranty of 1 year for the material cost. I think after looking at it, and we still need to see what comes back and what doesn't. If they plant bad material out there, then that's a problem. But if they plant it out there and all it's getting is nothing but sun all day or debris from the roadway, then that's something that we would be responsible for. I mean, it all comes down to the contract language, but that, I think these contracts are for stuff like this are boilerplate, and material we can go after. If they plant it and it dies because of something else, we're gonna have to eat it.
When you say possible lighting, you're talking about ground lighting to highlight things?
I'm talking
what?
about looking at the possibility of putting some pole lighting out there, like that's in.
Hole in the meat?
Can you allocate tearing down all those that are up and down the road?
I can't
I
allocate
hate those
anything.
things.
The board
You can't-
could, the
you
board
can't
could
see.
look at doing that, but, and, you know, when you talked about having the corridor that we're proposing for Campbell Station, I mean, the first thing comes into my mind is having it, you know, wrapped through Grigsby Chapel. I think it would be beautiful through that area. But that's, you know, that's something that's gonna have to be considered through the whole strategic
Let's-
planning process.
I live off of Grigsby Chapel, and if it rains, you're basically blinded. If you don't know where the traffic islands are and you don't look and see the reflectors, well, I struggle with it, and I drive it every day. So
Now, have we, I live out there by Ron too. I mean, have we determined that, I mean, and I understand what the mayor was saying. I think it would be beautiful, but I just don't know if it just makes practical sense. I mean, have we determined that what are the islands for? To slow traffic, right?
They're traffic calming islands, correct. I think they serve a
they
dual
have done
purpose in
that.
my
They've-
mind, though.
they've
I
done
think they're,
excellent job.
I
for
agree.
traffic calming and they're for beautification.
I think they're beautiful, but have we done any traffic studies on them since they've been put in to see if it's effective? I mean, I remember being here before, and the gentleman came out and said, you know, our average speed was whatever. Have we actually seen that they work?
They've definitely cut down the people passing on
Yeah?
on Grigsby Chapel Road, so in that respect, they have been extremely effective.
I've lived here 10 years, nobody passed me. But I know, I agree. Maybe I'm lead the path. Maybe I'm lead the path.
maybe you were passing.
Maybe you're driving fast enough where they can't pass you.
I mean, but I've not hit one yet either, so, I mean, is this gonna be this 25,000, or whatever the number turns out to be, that you anticipate every couple years,
Oh, that's a
or?
good question.
I think we
Is
need to
this
do whatever we need to do as a town to keep these things up and make them beautiful. If that means that
Hear,
we have to
hear.
allocate money every year, then we allocate money every year.
Well, I don't think 25,000 will even touch it. I think 100 might get closer.
I think for the work we have going on this year, 25,000 is a healthy start.
Yeah.
McPhee Park campus. We call it a campus because we've acquired two large tracts of property, three really. And the work is progressing along on phase 2. And we need to program money to redo the master plan, to add irrigation to phase 1 and 2, and finish up some of the design elements and see if we need to do any changes, and take a look at this now that we have the newly acquired property. A little more breakdown in the packet that you have, but basically that's what we're looking for 2012. Campbell Station Park historical sign markers. This would, again, there's more of a breakdown in the spreadsheets that you have, but this would basically be for signs similar, not exactly like that, I don't think, but that would be a good example of a kiosk-type sign, which would indicate historical facts, events, people along the trails within Campbell Station Park.
Those wood or metal?
Those are wood.
That one's,
That's
that
a
a metal?
metal one.
yeah, that's,
Composite, it's like a,
yeah. The one out here,
it's
right?
fake wood.
It's not wood.
The good stuff.
It doesn't rot. That's the good thing. We'll stay there.
Bob Leonard Park improvements for the installation of parking lot light in 3 locations of 3 parking lots that are indicated on the map. And the proposed allocation for 2012 is $50,000. Cover that